Hello, everyone. I am going to read to you some poems today, and they're not really organized in any particular way, or maybe they are. We'll see how they come out. Anyway, I hope you enjoy them. First one is called The Truth About Aging, Advice for the Young Angel Gabriel. You, young Gabriel, I want to talk to you. Never mind that downstairs 2 minutes ago, as we waited for the elevator, you introduced yourself to me as Jeff. And then when I got off at my floor, I said, "Have a great day. Gabriel, is it?" And you grinned and corrected me. "No, Jeff." And I said, "Oh, so close." And you good-naturedly gave me a thumbs up. No, to me you're still and always will be Gabriel, the angel who lives in 18G. And since you were so kind and pleasant and treated me like a human being, despite my sags and bags and the embarrassment of my age, I want to tell you something important, and that is not to worry. God's willing, you will get old, lose that bright, athletic, tight shorts body, and become flabby and befuddled like me. But, and this is the important part, this will not nullify you. It doesn't matter that many, or most, will believe that it has, and will be afraid to look at you, fearing that someday they too will be erased. Only a few will see that now, as you near the end of your time here, you are not only understandably befuddled, but also more curious, more compassionate, more thoughtful and tender, more puzzled and overwhelmed than ever you were as a young person, consumed by whether or not you would ever get what you so desperately wanted and needed. The girl, the guy, the job, the house, the car, the leisure, the luxury, the travel, the widescreen TV, the perfect family, the prestige, the fame, the glory, the love that lasts forever, the happy ending, the ticket away from death. And here's some poems, especially about birds. The first one is called Animal Behavior. I sit on a cold rock by the river, under the empty gray sky, and suddenly up above me, crows are pouring in from some endless source in the east, and disappearing behind me, and the air is still until 3 geese splurge in from the south with irate and outlandish honks that brings squadrons in over my head from the west, feet splayed, broad bottoms veering and adjusting for the perfect river landing, while more swarm in from the northeast, splashing down until everyone is present and accounted for. At the proper moment, they greet one another. "Hi, how you doing?" Then they turn away, indifferent, some to look for snails in the mucky river bottom, others to stand in the shallows, staring straight ahead, listening for the next emergency call. I walk home, and up above in the naked treetops, the crows are holding on for dear life, awaiting the next signal from beyond. This one is called Ode to the Crows. How I love the crows, but no crow can carry a tune, and thus they wake me, flapping past my window with riotous cries before the sun begins to rise. At which my crow spirit, cawing wildly, flies out the window to join them, and onward they swarm, galumphing through the sky, yelling and gathering their kin, jeering and peering at all below with happy sneers. Irate and full of themselves, drunk and never hungover, they flap and flap, on and on, piloting their motley crew on wings of derisive joy, crowing their rapture at all dark and shiny things. No one questions them as they carry out this elaborate daily routine. It is their job, their destiny, a sacrilegious service that only crows can do. And that is excellent, because if not the crows, then who? This one is called Swallows, for the morphologically inclined. No sheep to bumble about alone, weighed down with individuality upon the ground. We surge in sweet and singing swiftness across the sky, shape-shifting all as one, to sculpt the bright and empty air with wings of light. And one last one about birds. This is called Dark Blessing. It's from just the other morning, the day after the winter solstice. Dark Blessing. This morning at 6:15, the morning after the winter solstice of this unbecoming, wayward year, the anemic dawn reveals a murder of crows, swaying in the skeletal embrace of the tree outside my window, like an improbable set of anti-Christmas ornaments, all pointing the same direction. They look indifferent, surly and tough, but under their black armor they're just beating hearts hidden in fluff. Hulking, carelessly full of themselves, they drink the wet wind and confabulate in silent agreement as they wait for the sunrise to whisper to them, "It's time." Hungry to keep them there, I watch them the way I used to watch my children as they walked away from me down the hill to school. And if tomorrow these dark visitors return, I will marvel and rejoice the same way I did back then when my children rematerialized each afternoon. At last, the reluctant sun peers over the rim of the world to bless one more day of this bleak black moon year, and one by one, then one by many, the crows lumber up and out and away into the lavender sky to deposit the boon of their uncouth presence across the land. Crows understand that because of their blackness they will be targeted, but who gives a caw? Crows are outside the law, and anyway, they're in on the plan, having once, long ago, agreed to be the accomplices of accident and destiny. But crows are also social beings, as I saw this morning, watching them flap from branch to branch, crow to crow. "Mornin', how you doin'? Any news?" Seems to me we could learn a thing or two from the crows, like how to be cool and find our place in the whole, and how to say hello and wish each other well at break of day and at the knell of night. Maybe then we'd set each day going in a more interesting direction, and when darkness fell, we'd have sweeter stories to tell. Here is a prayer from a passenger in God's Ferrari. Dear God, you may be drunk on living, but please drive safely and don't fall asleep at the wheel. If we crash, it may be okay for you. No one's going to arrest you for drunk driving, and besides, you don't have a body. I, on the other hand, am made of flesh and suffering, and without you, my life is nothing but a soap opera. So please, by all means, enjoy yourself, but remember, I'm along for the ride. This one's called The Imposter and the Child. I can't believe I've done this. What on earth made me promise to teach music at the local elementary school in this backward, boring town? I'm not a musician, and I hate teaching children. Yet somehow I've agreed to teach a whole passel of them how to play the tonette, a hooting horror story of a children's plastic flute that shrieks and shrills and cannot possibly be tuned. A whole classroom full of the little brats blasting away on the things, running riot, ignoring me. I can't imagine a worse nightmare. Nevertheless, I seem to have committed myself, and this is my first day. I haven't remotely thought about a lesson plan, and of course I'm late, and haven't even packed a lunch. I grab some walnuts and ask my mother to drive me to school. My mother, my model, my idol, used to be the beloved music teacher here. Now she's retired, but she's still in charge, just in general. On the way to school, I confessed to her that I'm totally unprepared and that I hate teaching children and hate the tonette. Unperturbed, dead set on her task, responsible as all hell, and driving maddeningly slowly, she tells me, "This is the kind of thing you have to fix. Someone could get hurt if you insult people by pretending to be what you're not." Like that helps, but I don't say anything. If only she would take over and teach the damn class. She doesn't offer, but keeps driving me to my doom. I can't believe I've gotten myself into this, but I shouldn't be surprised. I'm just that way. I'll agree to anything to make people happy and never fulfill my commitment because I'm absolutely and incurably lazy and unwilling to face reality. Now the school will fire me and expose me, and everyone will see what I am, what I truly am, under my sugar coating. A reckless, spaced-out, ignorant fool who doesn't care enough about others to make the tiniest effort on their behalf. I do have one minuscule, impossible hope, that the kids will be kind and sympathetic and not rowdy, that they will be interested in my authentic, personal story of impossible, helpless foolishness and will listen to me. I know it's a ridiculous hope, but I cling to it as if it were the only thing keeping me from plummeting into a bottomless pit. Not a sturdy branch I'm hanging from, but a mere flower. We arrive at school and my mother drives off, and I go into the classroom to face the mob of leering children. And like a blessing from heaven, I wake up. Outside, the new day is innocent and clean, and the crows are yelling at the sunrise as they veer across the pale sky. I stretch and yawn, filled with relief. Yet, as I go through my day, the dream stays with me. I can't deny that there was something very real in it. Anyone looking at me in daily life would think I'm just a nice person, a little goofy, but well-intended. Inside me, however, two opposing characters are constantly vying for control, or one is, not realizing that her, quote, rival really couldn't give a hoot. The serious one is the imposter. Convinced she's in control, she's desperate to stay that way. At the same time, she's utterly embarrassed and ashamed of herself because she knows she's really just an empty, helpless ignoramus underneath. That's why she keeps up her friendly and pliable facade to hide that awful truth. Her unwitting opponent is the child. The child couldn't care less. All day she sits dreaming, giggling, and enjoying herself, fully convinced that all is well. All she ever wants to do is revel in the joy and beauty of life. That's all she knows, and it's enough. Life is sacred and delicious and profound, even the scary parts, because she knows she's protected. That's why she refuses to take anything seriously, including money or responsibility or work or worry. Enviously peering at the child from behind her agreeability, the imposter moans. Life is not easy for her. She chafes at the necessity of being so fucking nice to everyone all the time, and longs to relax, to abandon all pretense, to let go and just do and be nothing. But she can't have people finding out who she really is. A helpless idiot who wants to just laugh and play and enjoy life without doing her share. Horrified, the imposter gazes at the child in the mirror and recognizes her doom. Watching from our special box seat, we consider our options. Do we give a thumbs up to the imposter, or do we cheer for the child? Do we keep rehashing this boring and interminable scenario in which everything revolves so predictably around obligation, guilt, and sensibleness? Or do we have the imposter make her exit and let the child enter the limelight? We're clearly leaning toward the latter, because in truth we have zero desire to perpetuate the pretense of respectability and responsibility, which we find uninspiring. After consulting each other with silent but satisfied glances, we agree to give our protagonists some slack. We'll give the imposter a comfy folding chair in the wings and a nice glass of brandy, and let the child take center stage so she can do and be whatever she wants and needs to do and be. Fine and dandy, she'll say. But this play is too good to end here. In fact, we all agree that we want it to go on for quite a lot longer. So, while the child is playing out her favorite fantasies, we plant a seed of longing in her heart. And sure enough, before long, she begins to yearn towards a new, equally impossible and irresistible possibility. To finally let go of absolutely everything, including her last hope, and just fall helplessly into the unknown. We let her hesitate for a while at the edge of the cliff, but we know she'll soon give in, close her eyes, and just step out into the void. Then, as she falls, gliding and turning on the warm wind, if she listens carefully, she will hear our soft refrain. O lovely one, let yourself float like a blossom on the wind into the sea of deep reality, where ignorance is bliss, and all is well, and knowing nothing will set you free. Mother Ego's lament and God's answer. Oh, mighty God, I beg you, please help me with my ego. I know her pain and suffering are just the ordinary way of things, but surely you can give her some relief from the agony of watching her extended ego family as they ricochet from pleasure to pain, losing and gaining and losing again, while all that she, Mother Ego, can do is suffer with them and for them through and through. Oh, woe is she! Dear one, did it never occur to you that our creation is complex? That within this universe of joy, which wheels and spins in its infinite grace through all of time and space, amongst our most precious and amusing joys are our special toys. All the precious little egos who follow us about, all besotted and agog, shedding their anguished hopes and fears like petals at the feet of the Lord. No, my dear, fear not. Just sit tight, have faith, and quit your blithering. For every ego agony is only part of life's exquisite machinery. And without our precious ego families, none of us would ever know the great relief of letting go. This one is called My Guide and His Buddy. So I have this guide whom I invented to stay by my side and keep me from tumbling into the perilous waters of the abyss as I struggle up the narrow trail that climbs the vertical wall of life toward the sky. My guide is always with me, attentive as the most excellent butler, lurking all day long, just over my left shoulder with his buddy, Death. Except for those times when my guide, always staying tuned in case of dire need, leaves Death in charge for the night and goes to join his fellow guides up on their customary cloud. There they meet, greeting each other with fellow feeling, and sit down to chuckle and commiserate as they share poignant stories of all the helpful tricks they've had to play on their helpless charges. Until at last they get down to the main business of the night, exchanging the urgent messages all the humans have sent for their loved ones' guides. Please, oh please, keep my love safe. Help them be happy and free. Together, the guides send their sleepers lovely oodles of well-being in endless, luminous waves. At last they return to their sleeper's side to hobnob with death and keep watch, fond and stern as a couple of beloved professors. And when we wake, we find them there, awaiting our beck and call, and we thank them graciously, and they smile and bow. No, thank you, because they know full well that all of us are nothing but a humble figment of our helpless love for life, each other, and the world. This one is called Antidote for Darkness. I actually wrote it at the beginning of 2020. Doesn't look like it helped very much, but who knows where we would have been without it. So, Antidote for Darkness, a poem and a story for the new year, 2020. First of all, there's a poem called Song of Light. It's dedicated to Selma Baraz and her son James, who brought light into the darkness by reminding me that I am truly blessed. Blessed is the light, flower of life, that opens my heart with joy from deep within. Generous is the light that does not scorn the shadows, though they scuttle before it like discombobulated dreams. Friendly is the light and tranquil, holding me like a child and filling my soul with peace. Do not ask me to explain. Words are themselves made of light, and so cannot define their substance, but can only sing. And here's the story behind that poem. Not long ago, when I was sunk in suffering over something beyond my control, I remembered James Baraz's 91-year-old mother, Selma. In the YouTube video, Confessions of a Jewish Mother, she tells how her Buddhist son ruined her life. He got so sick of her complaints that he asked her to do something new. Every time she complained, she should just add these words, "But I am blessed." She complied, and to her horror, "It kills me to say this," she lamented. She got happier. Floundering in my doldrums, I thought maybe that's a good antidote. Negativity is really just complaining internally, so I'll just try repeating those words to myself whenever I have a negative thought. I tried it, and she was right. It works. The problems were still there, of course, but those words let the light in, and the darkness is never quite so dark after that. And I really recommend taking a look at that little video. It's really wonderful. Let me read now another story. This is called The Tigers. I didn't really know the girl. I had no idea where she came from. She just appeared one day and ended up staying with us. But she was attractive, young with long brown hair, and friendly. And she had a plan. That was what got me about her plan. Especially when she told me her plan had a special place in it for me. No one had ever asked me to be a part of their plan before. But why shouldn't they? Why shouldn't someone at least recognize my worth? My mother didn't like the girl and warned me not to trust her, but I was smitten. Why be mistrustful? To prove my point, when the girl asked me to take out a credit card with her, in both our names, I said, sure, why not? My mother rolled her eyes, but I didn't pay any attention. The girl and I did the deed and got the card. Well satisfied, she continued to lay out her plan, and I watched, enthralled. It was only then, after it was too late for me to back out, that others began to take me aside and mutter to me that I should be careful. This girl was a snake in the grass, they told me, and would end up ruining me. I'd better cancel the credit card and cut all ties with her as quickly as possible. I was horrified. I had to admit that this kind of thing had happened to me before on other occasions when I let my longing to be liked blind me. And now that the girl had what she wanted, I could see that she was treating me differently, with a cool disregard. The picture was suddenly all too clear. I'd made a terrible mistake and had to find a way to undo what I'd done before it was too late. In those parts, in those times, it wasn't a matter of legalities. Back there and then, the law was woozy and indifferent. What I had to do was simple. I had to dig up the homunculus the girl had buried as a guarantee that I would not go against her. If I could get my hands on that, I could offer it up as evidence against her in court. I knew where the homunculus was. It was buried right outside the house, under the window, and if I could get to it unseen, it wouldn't be at all hard to dig up. The only problem was that she had set a guard over the burial site. 2 enormous and ferocious tigers were stationed there, and they watched over the buried homunculus day and night. Strange tigers they were, at least 20 feet long, and of a ghostly pale pink, without stripes, but clearly vicious, and not to be crossed. The only thing I had in my favor was that they liked to take naps in their long coffin-like wooden boxes. My best friend told me he would help me dig up the homunculus and make my escape, which comforted me a great deal. We waited until nighttime, when we thought the tigers would be asleep, and then crept with our little spades to the place beneath the window. We dug hastily into the loose dirt, and before long, my spade hit wood. When I lifted the box, the putrid stench from the revolting little corpse inside slipped through the cracks and almost knocked me silly. But I held my breath, stuffed the box into my bag, and stood up just in time to see the tigers prowling towards us. We ran toward the road, intent on making our escape, the tigers silently and inexorably following us, breathing their icy breath. We kept going, running into the dark, till my feet got tangled in some sort of vine, and I felt myself falling, sure I would be eaten alive. That was when I felt something soft and velvety push up against me. Looking around in surprise, I saw that it was one of the 2 tigers, and he was pushing his head into me like a cat who wants to be petted. Docile as a kitten, he clearly wanted my friendship, so I petted him and thanked him for not eating me. "Of course we wouldn't do that," he answered, looking hurt. "But if you'll climb on our backs, we'll carry you away from here to a much nicer place." So we did, the 4 of us padding happily away, escaping safe and sound into the warm night. The tigers knew where they were going, and in the morning, when we woke up, still on their warm, soft backs, we were in a new, kind country. There we began our new life, with the tigers as our good friends. And here's another equally silly one. This is called White Dog Dream. I had to take my friend Sarah somewhere, and when we got to my car, there was a big white dog in the front seat. Sarah needed to sit there, so speaking warmly and enthusiastically and pantomiming as I gestured toward the back, I told the dog, "Okay, you have to get in the back now." He looked at me and wagged his tail and jumped out of the car and into the back. "Good dog," I said. He wagged his tail again, and I noticed that he was looking more human. The shape of his head and face were changing, and there was an intelligent expression in his eyes. "I do swear he understands me," I told Sarah. "I do," he said happily, wagging and looking intelligently at me. Sarah was oblivious. "What day is it?" she asked me. "Tuesday," I told her. In the back seat, the dog mouthed, "Tuesday." Impressed, I encouraged him. "Yes, Tuesday. Good dog." "Tuesday," he repeated more clearly. "Yes," I said. "Sarah, did you hear that?" "I did," said Sarah. "You can talk, can't you?" she teased the dog, clearly not believing that he could. "Yes, I can," he said, quite clearly. "I've been waiting to tell you." "Oh, you mean you were just waiting until you could speak well before trying?" I asked. "Yes, exactly," he said. "I believe some human children do the same." Maybe get a little more serious now. This is a poem that I wrote on the nature of reality. It's called A Good Show. Sitting in the audience behind my eyes, content with my popcorn, I watch myself and all my fellow actors perform our epic drama. I'm not sure what to call it. Tragicomedy, perhaps, here on the world stage. Our script is sparkling, trenchant, and deep. The characters so real, and we have the most convincing props and scenery. Mountains of joy, rivers of seduction, flamingos of silly hopes, kangaroos of impulse, heroes of grim determination, clouds of possibility, chasms of loss. I'm especially charmed that not only all the other people, but all the things, cars, houses, trees, baseballs, thunderclouds, etc., everything, in fact, is every bit as alive as I am myself. With my bit part, no longer the tragic heroine in her gashed black silk, just the cat purring in a puddle of sunlight. And here's another philosophical one. Could it be that the important thing is not what you and I and the world are made of, e.g., whether I am a particle or a wave, but where we are all going together? Could it be that everything is mental, that this piece of paper is spirit, that everything is equally real and unreal, physical and spiritual, like the gratitude with which I inhabit this warm body, sitting comfortably upon these buttocks, pen firmly in hand, making coated curlicues on the snow-white skin of a tree? Could it be that we are a living being communicating with ourself in all our different forms? Particles or waves of intention, of question, of confirmation, crossing the permeable barrier of the skin from inside to outside and outside to inside, carrying messages. Messages intended as a gift, as love. And when something else happens, not love but hate, not sympathy but antipathy, not delight but fear, is it not perhaps because we have not yet perfected the art of sending and receiving messages, that our particles of launch and capture are still learning their art? Let us then learn to recognize ourselves and each other in every thought, feeling, and action launched toward the world outside us, as far as the farthest conceivable star, and inside us, as deep within as the light of our eyes. Here's another one that's rather serious, called Prayer Beyond Belief. Here in these mere 3 dimensions, it's hard to see the depth of our totality, but I find that things get just a little clearer when I pray, by which I mean not words addressed to someone out there somewhere, but an inward reaching, sweet and deep, a resting there in the heart of things, an asking and a letting be. You know what I mean. We all pray every day in our own way, even if it's only a deep, inchoate longing for something we cannot name. Everything we do can be a prayer. We can pray in gratitude and in agony, in confusion and in clarity, in rage, in fear, in wonder and delight and despair. We can pray happily when we are sad, and without guilt when we are guilty. So let us pray, because the world needs us to, and let us say, may my well-being be the well-being of all humanity, and of all and everything on this holy rolling earth, and in the infinite unfurling worlds. May my well-being be yours, yours mine, ours theirs. May we come together beyond belief in the full and simple knowing that way down deep we ourselves are all there is and everything we need. And here is one that I wrote as a reminder to myself and anyone else who might appreciate it in this time of COVID. It's one that I really hesitate to include here because it's kind of heavy and nobody wants to think about these things. But for me, this is kind of a positive take, something that I want to be able to remember when I'm in the worst situation that I can imagine. Whether it's COVID or, falling off a cliff or whatever. It's called taking refuge in the heart. Good old death will one day come for each and every one of us, which is why, until then, we all tend to live in fear. So, lest we waste our days in useless agonies, let us try to remember this. Now and always, even in the worst of cases, in the ice-blue corridors where they bring the very ill to wait for a bed in the hall of the hopeless. Even there, we can be in our heart, giving thanks for the kind souls around us doing their best, and for all the friends and loved ones thinking of us, wishing they could be with us, holding our hand. Now and always, even in the very worst of cases, when we are wandering in and out of this life, only dimly aware of those around us, as they do all they can, even then we can be in our heart, giving thanks for those kind human beings, and for our loved ones locked away at home, wishing they were with us, longing to hold us in their arms. Now and always, even in the absolute worst of cases, when we are lying alone under the glare of the lamps, breathing our last, even then, in the deepest part of ourselves, we can be in our heart, giving thanks for the good-hearted people watching through the glass, and for all the friends and loved ones everywhere who hold us always warm and safe deep in their hearts. So now and always, from here to the dizzying brink of the unknown and beyond, let us remember that we are always safe when we stay in our heart, haven of light beyond fear. Here's one called Liquid Love. O sea, mighty being of ever-unfolding colors and moods, I am small, but full of love. When I stand at your brink, you come toward me gently, staying just a little out of reach, not to frighten me. But if I stand my ground and show you that I am not afraid, then little by little you come closer and closer, until at last, letting yourself go, you come surging, cool and gentle around my ankles, liquid love, and I drown in sweetness, my whole being calm. This one is called Transparency. This morning I noticed something gray and slimy begin to float across my day like a scum on ocean waves. Arg, another dark mood, I moan, as its soft and clinging tentacles wrap themselves around my brain. Why me? What sin have I committed today? Then, just before I sink, I remember that everything I think and feel and see is mine and only mine. And in a flash, the scum is gone, and I am simply imaginary me, transparent as glass. This one is called For My 4 Husbands. You know who you are. For my 4 husbands. You were all so different, but it didn't really matter because always I was I and you were you. First, you were a surly 50s greaser weeping in secret while plotting to steal the treasure from the world's heart. Next, you were a young man dancing your jaded way to success in colors that did not exist, till you stumbled all unwittingly on a treasure hidden deep within. Next, you were a gentle Argentine space case lover of the deeps, who dwelt with me in tender and astonished innocence. And now you're a crusty old Jew, sitting atop your wall of doubt, laughing out loud at the way the sun comes up each day anew. And I, girl, woman, wife, mother, and crone, have been happy for all your company on the long way home, because it doesn't really matter what we think or say or do. No matter what has been, still and always, I have chosen you. And here are some really short poems. This is called A Shy Devil. Yesterday I felt a nameless, ghastly depression creeping over me and spent the whole day warding off the devil. My efforts were useless and exhausting, and at the end of the day I felt like a ghost. Today, remembering that sorry state of affairs, I asked what I could do differently, and my heart told me, just pay attention. Pay attention to every moment as if it were something precious, something worth paying attention to. And so I did, and every moment became sacred. Here's another called Fumbling Fingers. Only after years of driving myself crazy with pointless fears did I discover that I could drive myself sane by learning to play the piano, fingers stumbling, mind at peace. This one is called Fool Made of Light. I give thanks for my own at last granting myself permission to enter this true fool's paradise, eyes wide open, knowing always I have been and am and always will be a fool made of joy, made of light. Smile on me, most beautiful light. Shine upside down in the pool of stars, in the doorway to forever. For we are limitless and made of your light. We are, we are, we are. And this is called Listen, a conflict resolution poem. In the future, whenever anyone is unkind, we will all stop everything and overwhelm them with an enormous group hug. Then we will sit down together and someone will bring them a nice cup of tea and we will all be quiet and just listen, 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 without judgment to their story. This is called Nothing in the Way. I remember when my mother, her mind half lost in the dustbin of her years, looked at me as she pretended to help with the dishes. How she looked with such blinding clarity because there was nothing left to mask the volcanic joy that flew from her eyes. And I knew that all is not as it seems. This is called Surface. And I wrote it when I was down by the river on it, and the river was very still and calm and reflective. How can this sheer, shining flatness be? Too fragile seeming to exist. Not even of an atom's thickness does it consist. Yet its trembling fiction holds the whole divine geometry of sky and sun, boats and wharf, arching bridges and shifting clouds, while hiding below it a whole distinct reality of wet volumes moving, a changing, flowing, liquid history, as fickle and unlikely as this fragile point of view that I call me. This one I wrote for a friend who was at the time feeling guilty and really being down on herself. She was a wonderful person, but she didn't always see that. You who fear yourself and call yourself names, climb out from under your rock and stop creating monsters. No matter what you say, I tell you you are beautiful. Your fear is only the weak voice of your new courage, and you are the sweet source of light. And this is the last one I'm going to read, and it's called Peace at 3 a.m. I have discovered that I can tie myself to the mast of my inner being and not give in to fruitless thinking about matters I cannot resolve. This works as long as I do not give in but stay single-heartedly in my center. I go to bed determined to stay thus in my center, like Ulysses, looking neither right nor left, as the sirens of my thoughts wail. Just before 3 a.m. I awake to find everything simmering in peace. I open the window and lean out into the cold, wet dark filled with sparkles. Everything is suspended, its life humming and dreaming. An intimate, perfect, deep peace holds everything and all life in its hands, in its heart, an empty chalice holding everything in stillness, simmering, simmering. I close the window and sit, taking in my room, the lights and shadows, the pictures on the walls, the things of my everyday existence. Everything still and perfect. I sit for a long, long time, unable to break the sweet, sweet, humming silence. And that is all I'm going to read for today. Happy Christmas, happy season, happy change of seasons, happy New Year, happy 2021, happy future.